BOOGIE'S Snapple 2 up on Black Power, family. What up? Once again, it's your brother in Google. Now you see RANM. You tuned in to RANM RBG TV. We keep it G. Raw and uncut common sense for the common people. Dealing with the common issues, family. You already know we're trying to seek those common solutions. So all in together now, family, say nice, loud, and proud. What's the method, the motto, the mantra, motivation, and the madness? You already know, family, that it is black love. Black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. Alright, so once again, family, you are tuned in. You already know where it is. Hopefully y'all saw that last episode the other day. Brother SHAKEM, reppin SC RBGz. Once again, big up to yourself, brother. He back again, family. He got something else that he got to talk to us about. And it's, once again, very vital, very important to this life walk, this life work that we're supposed to be applying. Now, with that being said, he's given this bill the title of How is it such a divide when we all proclaim Marcus Garvey as our founder? Again, how is there such a divide when we all proclaim Marcus Garvey as our founder? Now, with that being said, we're going to take it to Brother SHAKEM. Again, this is another one of those live feeds that he did on his page. Again, if you missed it, this is what RANM RBG TV is here for. We're going to replay it. Have no fear, family. That's why we're here. Sit back, get comfortable, take notes, if you will. Write the shit down, if you will, because it's very vital, it's very important. So with that being said, once again, Brother SHAKEM, you up next. SC RBG, do what you got to do. Represent the way you represent. Let's take it to the video, man. Let's do it.
Peace and black power, family. This is your brother SHAKEM Amenhotep AHKET. Right back at you once again. I'm gonna wait for some people to come on in. I want to have a discussion about how is it that we are so divided as a people. Why does the division run so deep in our community when we all profess to tie our ideologies back to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey? We all say proudly that we praise and we honor the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But lately there has been a growing divide amongst those of us who tie our movements back to this honorable gentleman. And you would think that Marcus Garvey would have left us enough information that we can all rely on for us to make a sensible understanding out of which way the movement should be going. Marcus Mosiah Garvey really didn't make it too hard for us to understand the route he was going.
Nope.
The information was very simple, very plain, He didn't give us too many long, hypothetical, drawn-out concepts that we had to add on to. He didn't give us anything spooky and scary that was left to some sort of interpretation that could only be understood through abracadabra. This isn't the first time in history that a movement has split up the way how it did. When you begin to understand history, you see that when most of the leaders died, and when their movements, when they died, most of their movements actually began to split. You saw factions. You see people with different ideologies and perspectives on what the leader actually taught. They all had their little beefs, and they had their little differences, and they had their little backdoor conversations, and a lot of politics got involved because they didn't really have a clear understanding of what that leader wanted to do or where that leader wanted to go. And sometimes we can say it was the fault of the leader because the leader really didn't leave a clear pathway, or he didn't establish a headway so that his followers could know who he was supposed to follow. Now, if you look at the Muslim religion, you see, after Prophet Muhammad died in 632 AD, he didn't also choose a heir or a leader in the Muslim world. And what happened is they ended up convening a meeting in Medina to choose the caliph of Prophet Muhammad. They ended up choosing Abu Bakr, who was Muhammad's father-in-law and his longtime companion. And it was believed that Abu Bakr was favored for some sort of practical reason, right? He was actually believed to be the most capable of maintaining the growing Muslim realm. But Abu Bakr died 2 years later, and he was ended up succeeded by one of his advisors. I think it was Umar, right? His name was Umar ibn Abu Khattab, whatever. But he was ended up killed by a slave who was succeeded by Uthman. And then Uthman was ended up killed after that. But then those who supported these lines of succession, they became known as Sunni Muslims. Right. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. But they were actually the Sunni Muslims. The Sunnis were the followers of Abu Bakr. Now also the Muslims had a lineage of Ali. Now at the time of Muhammad's death also, there was a small minority of Muslims who believed that Muhammad's true heir was Ali. Ali was Muhammad's cousin and his son-in-law. But his supporters believed that the authority to succeed Muhammad was Ali. So now you had that division. Now you had that two warring factions of Sunni and Shiite and Islam actually splitting up after Prophet Muhammad died. You see the same thing play out in Christianity. After, I don't believe in it, but after Jesus died, or after whatever you want to call him, Jesus, Joshua, I don't know, whatever you want to call him. But after the so-called death of this individual, you saw another split. And that split was because the so-called followers of Jesus didn't really agree on certain things, and they ended up going one way, leaving each other in quarrels and debates, trying to find out who was going to be the successor. And we see the same thing playing out today with the Honorable Mosiah Marcus Garvey's legacy.
Gut check.
How many of you believe that if Garvey was here today, that he would be pleased with what he's seeing here play out in 2016?
Gut check.
But all of us say that we are those who follow Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But why are we his followers, but we are in such a turmoil right now? We don't agree on certain things. We don't agree about nationalism. We don't agree about how the black man should place himself in a situation to rise above the level of institutional slavery that we're seeing play itself out today. We claim that we are all followers of Marcus Garvey, but yet there's a deep divide and a division amongst us ideologically. We're fighting over, should we allow certain people in the movement that was termed Pan-Africanism? We are fighting about whether or not we should include certain type of sexual orientations into Pan-Africanism. We are fighting about whether we should include certain political ideologies in Pan-Africanism. We're fighting to see whether or not we should include some sort of mulatto or mixed race people into the concept of Pan-Africanism. Marcus Garvey never did really speak out about this himself, but now this is a question that his followers have to sit down and beat over and over again amongst themselves, trying to iron out what would Marcus Garvey do. And that is why we are lost in a conundrum or a maze of stagnation, because we really can't come together and determine what's needed or what was meant by Marcus Garvey when he said, "Up, up, ye mighty race of people." Did he actually mean a mulatto? Was a mulatto included in the definition that Marcus Garvey said when he said, "Up, up, ye mighty race"? When he was speaking about a race of people, did he mean the mulatto? Now, when you start looking at the speeches of Marcus Mosiah Garvey,
nobody does.
He gave it all. He gave us a blueprint of nationalism. Now, in one of his speeches that he did in 1921, called "If You Believe the Negro Has a Soul," he stated clearly that we hear the cry of England for the Englishman. We hear the cry of France for the Frenchman. We hear the cry of Germany for the German, or Ireland for the Irish, or Palestine for the Jew, or Japan for the Japanese, or China for the Chinese. And he said, we at the UNIA are raising the cry of Africa for Africans, those who are at home and abroad. He said that there are approximately 400 million Africans in the world who have Negro blood coursing through their veins, and we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people toward one common purpose of bettering their condition. Now, let's backtrack. We don't have a clear understanding now of what it means to have Negro blood running through your veins.
Nope.
Now, in 1921, Marcus Garvey never did come out and say that a mulatto did not have Negro blood running through his veins. That's something that he never did say, but we do understand how certain mulattoes have sided with the white race in the perpetuation of slavery and in the perpetuation of institutional racism here today. We understand that there has been an attempted co-op by mulatto leaders throughout history. However, we see the same thing playing out with black leaders today also. So it's not like that history of coonism or that history of trying to co-opt people is just circumscribed or limited to mulattoes. It's happened with black people that have more melanin as me. But Marcus Garvey said that those of us who have Negro blood running through our veins, we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people towards one common purpose, and that's the bettering of their position in this civilization. He said that the problem of the Negro for the last 500 years has been that of disunity.
Yep.
Now this is in 1921. So now look at 2016. The same problem that Marcus Garvey espoused that was the biggest roadblock for the Negro elevation in society is the same problem that the so-called Negro is having today, and that's disunity.
Gotcha.
He said, but within the last 4 years, the UNIA has worked wonders, right? Now, he's letting them know that, hey, we have a problem of disunity. There's a sense of dysfunction amongst the people. But today, the UNIA has embarked upon something that is larger than life. He said it's bringing together in one-fold 4 million organized Negroes who are scattered in all parts of the world. He said here in the 48 states of the American Union and all in the West Indies and all of the countries in South and Central America and Africa, these 4 million people who are working to convert the rest of the 400 million that are all over the world. And it's for this purpose that we are asking you to join our land and to do the best you can into helping us bring about an emancipated race. These are the words of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Are y'all listening?
He was concerned about the unity of the people. But what's happening is that we have now focused so much on disunity and who should be excluded and who should be admitted that we are now taking more time picking apart the pieces of Marcus Garvey's puzzle rather than putting the pieces of the puzzle back together again to form a strong nation of over 400 million black people, not only here in America, but across the African diaspora. We are now picking apart the legacy of Marcus Garvey, trying to dissect what he meant when he said that anyone having Negro blood running through their system should be a part of the revolution of the UNIA. And so now what we do is we're getting caught on how many generations should it be from when a person had a white person in their family, should they be considered black? So now we're getting into intellectual masturbation. Well, if your grandmother is white, you're considered a mulatto. Well, if your father is white, you're considered a mulatto. Or if your great-grandmother is white, you're considered a mulatto. So now what we're doing is we're intellectualizing certain things that we don't even have proof or evidence, and it's just some old great big intellectual masturbation. Who's the authority on how many generations can someone be in your family white for you to say that you're not black? Who's the authority on this? Marcus Garvey in his speech said that if you have black or Negro blood running through your body, then you need to come together for a common cause and help. Tell me, what did Marcus Garvey mean?
They don't hear you, bro.
What did that mean? He said that these people in this society that are black, we need to come together and emancipate ourselves. He said that all Negroes all over the world are working for the establishment of a great continent of Africa, that all Negroes all over the world need to come together and realize that we have an aim, we have a purpose, we have an objective. We need to unite as a people. How is it that we can say that we are followers of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, but yet we have so much division and so much confusion going on, all because ideological differences, and then we turn around and want to debase the church. We want to talk about how the church is feeding into the division amongst the people because they're teaching lies. How is it that we can sit back and intellectualize on the fall of others when we have a lot of house cleaning to do ourselves?
Gut check.
Do we really understand the vision of Marcus Mosiah Garvey?
Nope.
Now, in a speech that Marcus Mosiah Garvey gave in 1921, he talked about a separate black nation. He said that the Negro is not happy. He said, but to the contrary, not only is he not happy, but he's extremely miserable, right? 2016, that same sentiment is playing today. We are not happy, but we are extremely miserable. And he said he is miserable because the world is closing fast around him. Just as you see the world closing fast around us today. You see us drowning in poverty. You see us drowning in miseducation. You see us drowning in all types of policies that are being enacted by government. You see us actually drowning, and we don't know where the bottom is because it seems the bottom is so deep, and that keeps us languishing in a grave. Not only a grave, but we're languishing in a bottomless pit. He said, the Negro, if he does not strike out now for his own preservation, it is only a question of a few more decades when we will become completely outdone in a world of strenuous competition for a place among the fittest of God's creations. He was trying to give his followers a sense of urgency, right?
Yep.
A sense of urgency, and letting them know that you only have a few decades left, because if you don't move now, if you wait these couple of decades, guess what's going to happen to our people? We are going to become a people who will never catch up.
That's right.
Now that was a very grim philosophy. That was a very grim prediction. But if you look at it today, was what Marcus Mosiah Garvey saying true?
Facts.
He also said that we are the most artless and indifferent people in the world. We are shiftless and irresponsible, right? These behaviors that he's describing almost fits perfectly to the behaviors that we are displaying today. It's almost as if our condition has not gone anywhere because we are failing to create the vision that Marcus Garvey had. We are failing to reestablish that vision that Marcus Garvey had. We are failing to reestablish or to pick up the mantle where he left off. We are failing to totally take his vision and make that vision our own. We are failing to do what he asks us to do because we're too busy falling victim to division, and we are too busy falling victim to who is right and who is wrong. Marcus Garvey said that, can you blame the white man for actually thinking? What's happening is that, like a brother said, there's no such thing as white privilege, because whites are supposed to look out for themselves, right? That's only right. That is why we must do the same thing with each other. We must have a black privilege.
Race first.
And that black privilege is something that Marcus Garvey tried to get us to understand what it's about. Marcus Garvey wanted us to realize that there was a greater goal that we had to accomplish, and the only way that greater goal can be accomplished is through the unification of us here in the shores of America, along with our brothers and sisters all across the African diaspora. Why is it that we are not grabbing hold to what this brother gave us? Did he die in vain? Did Marcus Garvey actually die in vain? If we are his followers, why is it that we have so many opportunities among us to learn and read the writings of Marcus Garvey? We have his speeches actually transcribed into writing. How is it that we're missing this and we are not quoting what Marcus Garvey actually quoted?
You want to recreate the wheel.
We say that we fly the red, black, and green honorably. But then throughout the day, when you scroll on social media, how many people do you see actually quoting the writings of Marcus Mosiah Garvey?
Gotcha.
How many people do you actually see in intellectual discourse about his philosophy of Pan-Africanism and how we can make it work? How many of us can actually see on our timeline on social media how people are coming together and having great dialogues on the understanding of Pan-Africanism and where it can lead us to and how it can take us out of the mud that we're in today?
Gotcha.
Why aren't we engaging in more dialogue about what the UNIA stood for and what the UNIA represented to them then and to us now? Why aren't we engaging in more intellectual conversation about the UNIA and how the passion of its leader, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, stood up as an honorable black man in the midst of white supremacy, in the midst of white domination, in the midst of a white stronghold here in this country? Marcus Mosiah Garvey stood up as a leader and gave us a vision that we have today. Why the hell is it that we aren't sitting down and trying to put forth this vision, but we are steadily turning our wheels, arguing about some goddamn mulatto?
Gut check.
Our conversations should be centered around how is Pan-Africanism going to benefit us today? What about the economic seeds that have been planted by Marcus Mosiah Garvey, starting his own media, starting his own shipping line? Why haven't we tried to duplicate that today? If he gave us a blueprint in the 20s And in the early teens, why isn't it that nobody has stood up and said, we are going to duplicate or restructure or restart his mission?
Egos.
That's missing from today. Because we're too busy wondering what Hillary Clinton is going to do. We're too busy wondering about what the ancient ancestors fought over. We are too busy wondering about certain things that don't really have a great effect on what we need to be doing to build and reestablish what Marcus Garvey set forth for us today. We are letting the history and we are letting the vision of Garvey die because we're too busy running around trying to fight over small minimum things that don't have any long-lasting effect.
Petty grievances.
That's the right. The brother said we have more resources. But the division in the community is coming from us not reading about the legacy of Marcus Garvey. We need to have more visionaries come and keep us back on track so we don't fall victim to a lot of the anger and the frustration and rage that we have amongst each other. And once we can restructure our lives and once we can really get a good understanding of the principles of Pan-Africanism and what it means to be a Pan-African, then we can live our lives day to day as a Pan-African. What does it mean to be a Pan-African? One of the first qualities of a Pan-Africanist is that he must love his race first. And when you say you love your people first, sometimes we can wear that out because we always hear people say that 24/7, I love my people, I love my people, I love my people. But now we have to really get out and actually show our people that we love them. That's the philosophy of race first. That means getting us together in a room to iron out some of our differences. That means helping out our people economically, helping out our people socially. That means that we should be able to help our people without wanting anything back or anything in return. So the first true principle of Pan-Africanism is being race first.
Gotcha.
And another principle of Pan-Africanism is African-centered education. And when you talk about African-centered education, one of the first things that you have to conceptualize in your mind is the end result. When one sits down to draft some sort of curriculum or to write a curriculum, the first thing that you think about is what type of individual am I trying to build? And when I sit down and I think about a speech that I'm going to give to the people, the first thing I think about is what type of effect do I want it to have on the individual that I reach? I want them to actually listen to what I have to say so that they can really feel the passion that I have for Pan-Africanism. And I want them to feel the love that I have for my people. I want them to feel my heart and my spirit. I want them to feel what I have to give them because I want to see my people free. And when you start talking about African-centered education, you have to think about what type of path do you want our children to go on so that we can build a better people. We have to begin to understand and grow the concept of Pan-Africanism, not in a sense of dividing Pan-Africanism up, but we have to sit down and think about how we can unite the principles of Pan-Africanism. We're not going to agree on everything in totality, but if we sit back and we think about the things that we agree on, and we come to some sort of conclusion, then we can move out and we can steadily say that we are accomplishing things one at a time. Pan-Africanism fits all of us. Pan-Africanism is not held back by a certain religion. Pan-Africanism is not held back by any sort of political ideology. What you have to do is be race first for your people. Like the sister said, Pan-Africanism is a lifestyle.
That's right.
And until we start taking it seriously, and until we stop trying to tell people what they are and what they aren't, we need to ask people what can they need, what can they bring to the table. Let's try to find out what skills we all have to offer each other. Some of you might be carpenters. Some of you might be painters. Some of us might I don't know, do graphics. Some of you might do video. We need to sit down and put together a list of resources that we have to offer our people. And then we can go out and start teaching our people what it is that we know so that we can help them develop themselves and grow their human potential. That's better than sitting down and arguing with someone about whether or not their grandmother was white, if that person can be a part of Pan-Africanism, right? What we're doing is we're steadily trying to separate ourselves to the point to where we're not even thinking about building ourselves up to where we can become dominant as a race of people. Now, we always use the white man as an example. Let me ask you this. Does the white man have frivolous arguments about whether or not a person's great-grandmother was black in order to say that they're white?
Nope.
They don't do that. Now, it might be some issue if the parent is white, but when you start going back a generation, are you going back the person's grandmothers and talking about their mulatto and all of that stuff like that? What are you doing productive for your people?
Not a damn.
What are we doing that's productive? Are you teaching the people how to build economically? No. Are you teaching the people how to raise the level of consciousness so that we can be kings and queens and rulers? No. Are you teaching the people how to build technological skills so that we can be creators of software, that we can create the next Microsoft? Are you teaching a person information to where they can build the next Apple? Are you teaching somebody something to where they can build the next IBM? No, you're not doing that. All we're doing is causing confusion by having these big old food pause, but I'm back. So by us not actually teaching our children anything of substance, all we're doing is creating youth that are going to fuss and fight and emulate the same behavior that we have.
But black power, though.
We're not actually sitting down and saying, hey, I have something that you can do. I've been doing this for many years. I'm a welder. We're not teaching our people trades and skills that they need to survive. We're not doing that adequately as if we should. And that's where we're missing the mark when it comes down to Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is action. We have to build and create a new civilization. Pan-Africanism isn't about sitting back and chiding and blasting somebody. Pan-Africanism is about coming together and forming co-ops so that we can build ourselves up economically. Pan-Africanism is an ideology to where we can sit back and put some sort of political agenda together for our people so that we can do trade and business with other countries. That's Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is a way of life that we should live. Pan-Africanism is something that we should breathe with every waking moment of our lives. We should be thinking about how Pan-Africanism can help our people rise above the level of being low-wage workers into entrepreneurs, businessmen and women who can open our own Fortune 500 companies. That's where we're missing the mark on Pan-Africanism.
Gotcha.
Individuals, and I'm gonna leave y'all with this because, let me look, arguing about being African or an Israelite ain't getting us nowhere because that's all we see with these brothers. And I agree with you, right? When you really start talking about Pan-Africanism, we almost really shouldn't be arguing about if you're an Israelite, whether you are a Hebrew, whether you are Kemetic or whatever. We shouldn't really have to have that dialogue, even though we do, but we shouldn't have to have it because what Marcus Garvey actually envisioned was that it would encompass all of us. His vision was like far-reaching and far-grasping. So whether or not one says he's an Israelite, he still is a Pan-African because he understands that the origin of man is from the motherland. You shouldn't have to argue about whether you practice, ancient Kemetic spirituality or you practice Christianity, because Pan-Africanism was designed to where you can encompass all of that. And as long as you hold on to the race first agenda, then you will be able to help your brothers and sisters no matter where they are. Marcus Garvey was a genius with this concept.
Hold them together now.
Many don't understand the genius of the concept of Pan-Africanism. That's something that's so far-fetched from some of our minds. We really don't sit back and understand the ingenuity that he had when he put together this concept. When he put together this concept, the goal was one God, one aim, one destiny, one people, one frame of mind, one movement, one power. It was one everything. Not to say that there aren't little cultural differences that everybody has, but yet and still, it's designed for us to become one. Marcus Garvey said, the laws of self-preservation force every human group to look after itself and to protect its own interests. Hence, so long as the American white man, or any other white man for that matter, realizes his responsibility, he is bound to struggle to protect that which is his own. And I feel that the Negro today, who has been led by the unscrupulous of our race, have been grossly misguided in the direction of expecting too much from the civilization of others. Now, Marcus Garvey knew and understood that the first law of life is self-preservation. So we should expect the white race to look out for their own, because they want to preserve their own. They want to have their own. They want to have their culture. They want to love their people. They want to be their own nation. They want white nationalism. Throughout history, when you see whites came together, the first thing they did is establish their own nation. That's white nationalism. White nationalism is the ideology that whites are going to be supreme all across the world through the sharing of resources amongst themselves and keeping others out. That's white nationalism. White nationalism is the ideology that they're going to subjugate any other color or any other race or any other ethnicity to what their aims and objectives are, so that they can keep them down. That's white nationalism. So now, if we understand what white nationalism is and how that philosophy is so dangerous, how do you think that we are going to beg and plead the white nationalists to give us a land of our own here on a land that they took and established for themselves? How can we be so naive to think that out of the gratitude of their heart, these white nationalists who fought for many years to steal and plunder and rob this land are going to give us something of our own so that we can have territory where we can live in peace with them? No. Marcus Garvey said that we have to establish our own black nation. And I'm going to leave y'all like this. The brother said there are new age brews, old school brews, yup, new and like, bam, exactly. You see an awakening actually coming with Pan-Africanism. All I want us to do today is try to understand that we are in a state of urgency. A state of urgency because, as Garvey predicted about 100 years ago, that if we continue down the path that we're on now, you will see the Negro exterminated. And you will see us almost extinct because our minds are never going to catch up and be able to, I would say, we won't be able to compete on a level to where we can outmatch or outdo white supremacy.
which is ultimately
So we have to
suicide.
always keep in mind that no matter where we are and what we do, no matter how much we debate, no matter how much we bicker and we argue, we need to be laying the foundation for Pan-Africanism. The way how Dr. Amos Wilson laid the groundwork for Pan-Africanism. We must lay down the groundwork for Pan-Africanism. We must begin to look at the big picture when we're trying to establish a new black nation. We have to understand fundamentally what our aims and our objectives are. Peace and black power, brother SHAKEM Hotep. Oh, the brother saying the hell we are going through is what Garvey predicted. Exactly, that's what he predicted. Marcus Garvey actually predicted what we're going through now. What I believe our solution is unity. It's very simple. Very simple. We have a lot of intelligence today. We are a more equipped group of people. We have more technology. We have the brightest of minds and the best of scholars. What we need to do is start linking up with those all over the globe, because we're here and we're ready to take over. Peace and black power. SHAKEM Hotep AHKET, SC RBG. I'm out. Black power. Peace to all the power. Peace to all the people.